Inequality, relative feudalism, revolution in France. All the three states intentional stabilism, revolution in France. La liberté, égalité, fraternité, a revolution. La liberté, égalité, fraternité, a revolution.
Our base is vulnerable! The enemy base is now vulnerable.
The Bolsheviks were a faction of the Marxist Russian Social Democratic Labour Party, which ultimately became the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. Founded by Vladimir Lenin, it was a mass organization consisting primarily of workers who considered themselves the leaders of the revolutionary working class of Russia. They come to power during the Russian Revolution of 1917. Popular demonstrations provoked by the hardship of war forced Tsar Nicholas II to abdicate. The monarchy is replaced by an uneasy political relationship between provisional parliamentary figures and revolutionary councils directly elected by workers, soldiers, and peasants. Vladimir Ilyich Lenin, as a leader of the Bolsheviks, heads the Soviet state during its initial years. He fights to establish control of Russia in the Russian Civil War. The Jacobins of the French Revolution are to become their primary model. The first task for Lenin and the Bolsheviks after the revolution is therefore to reinstall censorship. They believe that the old order and the long-lasting domination of capitalism and bourgeois ideas had ideologically corrupted Russian people. From this moment, all workers and peasants are to be re-educated in the right political ideology. The press plays a crucial role. As a result, the Bolsheviks close all right-wing newspapers, founding their own ones. From 1917, Bolshevik newspapers start to reproduce the ideas of the professional revolutionaries to the people. The Communist Party of the Soviet Union becomes a newspaper party with the power of the whole Russian media. Lenin believes that so far media freedom has simply been the freedom of the rich to buy the newspapers and the writers. However, under the new Bolshevik regime, freedom of the press is to become the freedom of the professional revolutionaries to publish their own ideas. They maintain an idea that papers are actually able to work like hypodermic needles. In other words, an intended message is directly received and wholly accepted by the receiver. Simply put, communist ideas injected directly into the people's brains. During this dictatorship, Pravda, in English, the truth, becomes the most important newspaper in Russia. Controlled by the Central Committee of the party, it is published all over the country. A handy tool that allows the Soviet leaders to announce their official policies, a tool strictly used for their propaganda. Eventually, most of the governmental bodies of the Soviet state run their own papers. In 1924, the Bolsheviks launched their first all-union radio station in Moscow. As a newspaper without paper, as they like to call it, it is an easy way to educate people, where even children and illiterates can be easily reached now. The Bolshevik communist propaganda is simply everywhere, from posters in the streets to sophisticated messages hidden in artwork, books, films, photography, or even plays. The Bolshevik, however, believes that the censorship should not last forever. The total control of the media is only for the re-education of the workers and peasants. The Bolsheviks see themselves as representative of an imaginary future. They are convinced that the right political ideology will spread within a few years. Once the process is successfully completed, censorship shall not be needed anymore. The people are meant to live in utopia with media freedom for everyone. The General Directorate for the Protection of State Secrets in the Press, called the Glavlit, was the party's own censorship institution. It was implemented in 1925. It employed around 70,000 full-time staff. Their job was not only to eliminate any undesirable printed materials, but also to ensure that the correct ideological spin was put on every published item. To suppress criticism, to hide negative information about the economical situation, mass conflicts in the country, mass conflicts within the international relations. This becomes the primary goal of the body. Telling anything against the party line was punished by imprisonment or through punitive psychiatry, also known as the systematic psychiatric hospitals. These were used by the authorities as prisons in order to isolate hundreds or thousands of political prisoners from the rest of society, discredit their ideas, and break them physically and mentally. The propaganda became useful also in the Second World War. Stalin, due to few wrong decisions, lost crucial strategic points on the front, resulting in enormous losses and fallen cities. This was, however, no problem for the people of Glavlit and their propaganda. During the war, newspapers and radio tasks were mainly to keep the nation calm and the war spirit up. But it was not just the Second War when censorship was successfully used. Even after the war, the Institute for Censorship Glavlit was cleverly split into 7 departments in order to make the censorship even more efficient. Unfortunately, control of the media is not an exclusive phenomenon of the Soviet era only. Traces and tendencies of what seems to be a dangerous resemblance of the Soviet model can be observed in the state's political concepts even today.
Si j'ai demandé à intervenir au nom du groupe PPE dans ce débat sur la liberté de la presse en Italie, c'est en premier lieu pour dénoncer l'usage malheureux de cette enceinte européenne pour traiter le débat national. Dans ces conditions, le débat s'organise dans cette enceinte et qui est organisé surtout dans cette enceinte n'est ni plus ni moins qu'une manœuvre politicienne et partisane destinée à gêner un adversaire politique.
Il diritto all'informazione libera, senza pressioni, condizionamenti da parte delle autorità di governo, deve essere garantito e questo è un bene pubblico, un bene di tutti, in ogni Paese e questo bene deve essere difeso senza esitazioni da parte dell'Unione. Dobbiamo adoperarci per fornire norme comuni, per stabilire limiti oltre i quali l'informazione non è più considerata libera. È urgente che l'Unione intervenga, che vi sia una direttiva per definire indicatori sul pluralismo e sulla difesa di un bene che deve essere disponibile a tutti.
Il y a des valeurs, il y a des libertés qui doivent être défendues dans cette enceinte au-delà des intérêts des nations, au-delà des constitutions des nations. Et qui sont des valeurs et des principes qui sont vraiment de la nature de l'Union européenne. Donc je demande à la Commission de revoir sa position et de venir avec une directive sur la question de la concentration dans les médias le plus vite possible, et ça pour tous les pays de l'Union européenne.
In Italy, 80% of the people get their daily information from television. If that television is not broadcasting all voices, people do not get the chance to make their own decision. That's basis democracy.